Everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be kind of a hodgepodge video. I'm going to be baking a apple cake. My grandmother's recipe. She passed away in 1989. I believe she was born in 1918. Dad, you can help me out later with that. I was fortunate enough to get her collection of recipes. So from over the years, you know, because she was quite the cook, quite the baker. Both my grandmas were. But I got a box with all of her recipe collections. Some are handwritten and some are just collections like out of a newspaper. And I'll show you that here in just a second too. Like an old news. I don't know about you guys, but I love looking through old newspapers, and especially, you know, even if it's a clipping, like looking at the ads and maybe like see what the date was. But anyways, so this is my grandma, and when I got those, I ended up getting this book and then organizing everything in there so that I will have them and they'll stay in good shape for years. So the recipe we're doing is called just a fresh apple cake. This is a handwritten one, which is just priceless, like I was saying. So that'll be fun to do. The unique thing about this recipe is it calls for Kellogg's cereal, like any kind of Kellogg cereal, you know. And a lot of these old recipes I love because you just use what you have around the house, and I absolutely love that around your kitchen. All I have is Honey Nut Cheerios, so we're gonna throw those in there and see how it turns out. But I think that'll be a nice little add some sweetness and maybe some honey flavor in as well. So some things coming down the pipe. Another one I want to do of my grandma's, which I've made this a few times now, is this sounds absolutely crazy. And by the way, this is like another one of those clippings, you know, out of like a newspaper or some kind of a publication or something. But it's a sauerkraut chocolate cake, right? What is that? What is that? I'm trying to see if there's a date on this one, but I don't see the date. But it's just it's fun because it's a similarity between my grandma and I, because I clip recipes all the time. I do them online, but I also like to clip them as well. So that's coming down the line. We'll do this sauerkraut chocolate cake. And most people are just like, are you kidding me? But it is the most delicious chocolate cake I've ever had in my life. And I think, you know, it's kind of similar to like, in the fact of it makes a moist cake, like when you do a carrot cake or something, or zucchini bread or zucchini cake, you know, that gives it a lot of moisture. You don't taste sauerkraut at all. But I think maybe that'll be our next cooking one that we do. Other things coming down the pipe, let's see. The orange golden ale is ready to drink today. So look for a beer review on this probably in the next 2 or 3 days, something like that. A week from today, the chocolate milk stout will be ready to drink. Okay, so it's still got another week. This has that chocolate, those cacao nibs that are in there, and that made it go, has to ferment for an extra week than your normal beer. One thing with this is I want to name this beer. So it's a chocolate milk stout. So please think of some funny names. I think you could go a lot of places with a chocolate milk stout, right? And if you have any ideas, let me know in the comments. I think that's it. I am going to make some pumpkin muffins. This is my time of year. I'm baking. I love fall. I love autumn. Depending on where you are in the world is what you call it. Let me know in the comments if you call it fall or autumn. And let me know where you're from. I think I know most of you where you're from, but not all of you. Let's go ahead and bake this delicious grandma's fresh apple cake. And it's going to have cream cheese frosting on the top. Not homemade this time, but it will have cream cheese frosting on top. Let's get started. So I used to do this on Periscope. Do you guys remember the platform Periscope? It's going to be like a combo of that. Partially, it won't be live, but partially with me talking and then doing some editing too, so it's not so long. We're going to start out with 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. And we're actually going to sift this. Sifting it just makes it fluffier and to make sure that you get any clumps out. So we're going to go ahead and put in 1.5 cups of just all-purpose flour. 2 teaspoons baking soda is going in. There's 1 and 2. There we go. 1/2 teaspoon salt. And then 1 teaspoon nutmeg and 1 teaspoon cinnamon. So here is our nutmeg, ground nutmeg. I like nutmeg. It smells so good. So we're gonna put that in there. I didn't get a beer. I should have some kind of a drink going here. When I'm cooking, I like to do that. What I wish I had is a glass of wine. You guys know I make beer, but I do like, I'm not a huge, there goes the cinnamon, you guys. I'm not a huge wine person, but I do like a glass of wine while I'm cooking. I've always been that. We're gonna sift this. I just have, this is actually the same sieve that I use for my beer. Kind of multi-purpose. But when you sift it, you get all those chunks out. Because if you look in here, which you guys can't see probably very well right now, you do have clumps of flour. So it just kind of makes whatever you're baking a little more airy and a little more fluffy and light. So I'm gonna kind of do that just to make sure I get all of that allspice in there. Okay, so that's our dry mix. All right, so we're gonna put in 1/2 stick of butter, or a whole stick of butter, 1/2 cup of butter. You could use margarine. I'm using just real butter here. And we need 1 cup of sugar, just normal granulated sugar. 1 cup. See if I can get it in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my hand mixer all set up, and we're gonna cream the sugar and the butter together. So in all the years that I have baked in my life, this is a mystery I should be able to figure out. But when you put these into your mixer, there's an order that you have to put them in. You have to put it into one of these slots before the other, you know, and the ends of these look slightly different. But if you don't do it right, then they fall out. I actually think I did it right. Doesn't have to be for too long. All right, now we're gonna crack 2 eggs in there. There's a 1. There's a reason that I shouldn't do that one-handed. Pick my shells out. Shh, don't tell anybody. I was holding the other egg. All right, so 2 eggs, and let's go ahead and blend that in there. There. Now we're gonna dice up some apples. Now, I prefer to use like Granny Smith green apples. This is all that I had around. And so we're gonna use those. Now my neighbors, they have a tree with green apples on it. She usually lets me pick some, but it's a little bit early to pick those. So we're just gonna use what we have on hand. For my next trick, as usual, I forgot to put my apron on. Speaking of Periscope days, I don't know if you can read this. My future daughter-in-law got this for me. It says, "My cooking is fabulous. Even the smoke alarm, even the smoke alarm cheers me on." She got this for me. Speaking of Periscope days, I was cooking live with a friend of mine in Australia, and I was toasting some tortillas in the broiler. And when you're going live, you forget about things. Caught them on fire. Actually had to use a fire extinguisher. I was living with my son at the time, and used the fire extinguisher in the oven because the oven was in flames. So it made for an exciting broadcast. Anyways, let's go ahead, get yourself a good paring knife. Now let's see, I'll speed this up later when I edit this. See if we can get one long strip. Can she do it? Oh, I almost had it. Okay, last apple, last chance to redeem myself. We'll see. Okay, dicing up the last apple. And you know, these kind of apples, like Granny Smith apples, are smaller. But these kind of apples, you know, just your average size kind of red variety, you know, there's all kinds of varieties. But you know, your average apple, they're about 1 cup, okay? So we need 4 cups of apples, so just 4 apples. So I don't even measure it out. Probably why I'm a better cook than a baker is with baking, you should probably follow recipes closer. But that's what I like about this kind of a recipe is I feel like not everything has to be exactly precise. And I'm just putting it in with my eggs, sugar, and butter. We're actually almost there. Okay, so I just thought maybe with the apples it'd be easier to put it in here first. And then we're gonna mix it into our flour. And then the secret ingredient. And I like recipes that have odd ingredients. So this recipe called for how many cups? Let's see, 1 cup Kellogg's brand cereal. And it is suggested, and remember, this is my grandma's recipe. So this is from, I don't know, back in the 50s. I don't know when she wrote this. She put in there like, such as Brown Flakes or all brand buds. I don't know what those are. Anyways, I don't have that. We are just going to use Honey Nut Cheerios. These are versatile, you guys. I throw Honey Nut Cheerios in with popcorn and peanuts. Put peanuts, Honey Nut Cheerios into my popcorn. It makes a really good mix. We just need about a cup. So I'm just gonna do a handful and then a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and just mix up the wet ingredients in with the dry ingredients. All right, I don't want to use the hand mixer with this because I don't want to mush those apples up. I want there to be little pockets of apple surprise. This is like, I don't know, like a 9 by 9 by 2 inches. Something like I'm just going to use a little bit of Pam and use Pam so it doesn't stick. Okay, and now let's just go ahead and get this into our making nice thick batter, if you will. Whoops. Sorry, Grandma. I got some of your apple batter on your handwritten recipe. She would have loved that. All right, so I'm just going to spread this around nice and even. Okay, so then you end up with it looking like this. Okay, so we're going to stick this in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'll look that up and put it on the screen what that is in Celsius for about 45 minutes until it's done. So I'm gonna go stick this in the oven upstairs and I'll see you here in a little bit. Okay, so it's out of the oven. It took about 40 minutes and then, you know, do that toothpick trick, you know, put it down in the center. And if it comes out clean, it means that it's done. You don't have any like batter sticking to it or dripping off it or whatever. But look at this nice brown that cinnamon and nutmeg give to this. You wouldn't think it would be a brown cake because when it's in the dry form it didn't look like that, but once it's baked you get that nice color. You could make your own cream cheese frosting, which I do sometimes, but I think it's just cheaper and it's obviously easier. I'm just going to use this can of rich and creamy cream cheese frosting. I'm hoping to just use half of this because I've got some pumpkin muffins that I need to bake once we get through this cake, which I'll be sharing with my mom and dad. Give it a final spread around here. And this is just like a baking pan cake, you know, not like a holiday cake or like a birthday cake or anything that you actually, you know, take out of the pan or anything like that. All right. So there it is. I'm going to get it. Let's get it cut and plated so you can see it and we'll give it a try. All right, so we got a slice here. I'll bring it up closer to the camera. And it did not take the whole thing of frosting. Okay, so you can see how it's dark. It's really a moist cake. And I don't know if I get that close enough. Can you see the chunks of apples in there? Those apples make it super, super moist. Let's give it a taste test here before we go. So good. So simple to make. It was fun sharing my grandma's recipe with you guys. I'll put the recipe in the description if anybody's interested. Super easy. Again, I'm going to get a nice hot cup of tea and enjoy the rest of this piece. All right, see you on the next one. I'm out.